This is the Just Real Quick podcast, where we discuss how to succeed in the world of sales through confidence, discipline, and consistency. Are you ready to be intentional about creating more opportunities that lead to sales? Tune into this episode right now for the latest insights and strategies that will take your sales game to the next level. I'm your host, Jefferson K. Rogers.
Welcome back to another episode of Just Real Quick. I'm your host, Jefferson Rogers. Today in the studio, I got a special guest. My son, Hayden, just turned 18 a few months ago, just getting done with high school. His first podcast. So excited to have him on today. I got my partner in crime, Jeffrey Fieldstad. I was almost going to call you Jefferson. Jeff Fieldstad, good friend of mine. And we've got a special guest today on Zoom, coming all the way from Boston College, Mr. Nick Cidado. Excited to jam with you today, Nick. He's got a book coming out. He's got an impressive career as a performance coach over there at the Boston College with the football team, right?
Actually, the Olympic side of things. So every team but football, actually.
Every team but football. Wow. Totally got that one wrong. But that's impressive, man. That's impressive. Looking forward to hearing about your story. Why don't you give us a quick intro on where you come from, what you're doing, and then we'll talk about the book.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on, first and foremost. So I'm a strength and conditioning coach here at Boston College. It's my current role. I've been in the field for about 10, 12 years now, dating back to even while I was a collegiate athlete myself. So I played football collegiately at Bridgewater State, which is a state school in Massachusetts. And early on, I fell in love with the preparation process just as an athlete myself. And, that's what the book's about, and we'll certainly get into that later. But I have a passion for helping people get ready for what they want to do in their life. And all my experiences are around athletics, and I'm very sport related here. So my job in the simplest terms is to prepare these athletes to go out and excel at their sport every single day. So I'm in the collegiate setting now. I've also spent some time in the private sectors as well, at a franchise, Velocity Sports Performance, which is nationwide. Some local Evolution Sports Performance Boston area, MJP Strength and Conditioning Boston area. And I've also done a stint at Harvard University as well in the collegiate setting. And that kind of got me to my point here at Boston College. So like we alluded to earlier, we work with every team except for football. So we have 31 athletic teams here at our university that we train on the daily.
Wow. That's great.
And so, yeah, it's pretty good. I get to work with all different mentalities, different backgrounds of athletes, and it's pretty special and really unique.
Right on, brother. So how long you been working on this book?
Yeah, so, long story short, I started the book. I never aspired to be an author. If you asked me even probably a year and a half ago, I would have never told you I would have a book published. And I started the process about, last Thanksgiving time period. And I just started writing. It's very genuine and authentic to me and my beliefs, and working with the athletes and the success that these athletes have had, who I've had the fortune of working with. After we won the national championship with the lacrosse team I coached in 2021, I really did some thinking about my position and what I'm able to do and what impact I'm able to make. And, after really auditing, my structure and my position, I found that, what I do is a lot deeper than X's and O's of prescribing sets and reps in the weight room. It's a lot deeper than pushing athletes through grueling conditioning sessions and grinding them out through the preseason, getting them ready for. There's so much to do with mindset, and and a lot of other strength and conditioning coaches will relate to this, is the mental component of training and getting yourself ready, getting yourself to that level where you can go and be at your best. So I started to formulate my thoughts and put them all together, started writing, putting pen to paper, like I said, last Thanksgiving. And it's been about a little bit over a year, and we're set to be published on January 30th.
Wow. Congratulations, dude. And that's fast.
I appreciate it.
It took me 2.5 years to get my book done and published.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, it's not to be corny, but it was so authentic to me. It kind of flew right out of me, like I was almost meant to write the book. Wow. And awesome. Yeah, so I kind of learned a lot along the way too, because I don't know any other authors myself personally. So I kind of learned a lot about myself along the way.
That's good, man. Well, I'm looking forward to getting a copy of it so I can dig in. And, I'm not sure how much you've looked into JKR windows and my personal story, but over the last year, we've actually implemented something in my company that we call the 4 pillars of JKR windows. And it's relationship, spirituality, health, and finance. And health is an important one to me. And one of the reasons and the inspirations to bring you on is not only for my company and for myself, but for everybody out there in our sales community and people that plug into the Just Real Quick podcast, to be able to add some of these foundational principles about mindset, about training, about nutrition, things that can help you take, first of all, your perspective to the next level, and then start little by little applying these things to your life so you can operate at a high level, for you to be able to do incredible things as a father, as a husband, as a leader, as a coach and mentor. You've got to have your health in line, and it's an important pillar for us. So tell me a little bit about how this became a focus for you and why it's become so important. And we got to hear a little bit about the inspiration of the book, but as it applies to one of the foundational pillars of life, I want to hear your perspective on that.
Yes, your health is everything. Your health is your wealth. I didn't come up with that term, very cliche, but it's so true. Where your mindset's at is going to elevate you and the people around you. I really started to fall in love with it as an athlete myself. I was very fortunate to be on some winning teams in college. In high school, we won a state championship. In college, we won our conference championship. So I've been fortunate to learn from some good mentors, the process of doing everything beforehand. So you create what's called the expected result. You know what's going to happen. But in order to do that, in the work you put in beforehand, it's all about where you're able to, incorporate physically and putting yourself through hard things and doing things out of your comfort zone and being vulnerable. You teach yourself a lot and you grow a lot on the inside. And that's what helps propel you to move forward. That's what helps you set yourself up for success so you can operate at a high level. If you're not willing to put in the work beforehand, if you're not willing to sweat more during peace, like my book title, then you're not going to be able to bleed less during war, right? You're not going to be able to, eliminate some of those errors or those times of conflict that come up when you're called upon. So being able to take care of yourself and work from the inside out is very important from a mentality standpoint.
It is. And you know what? My partner here, Jeff, he's actually one of my mentors, and I've heard over the years so many inspiring things out of him, and that's one of the things that you're. So the title of the book, just so everybody knows, I don't think we said the full thing, is Sweat More During Peace, Bleed Less During War. Preparation Tactics that Generate Success. So what that means to me, and you hear a lot of these cliche type of things, but the harder you work, the luckier you get. And then, Jeff, what's the other one that's where like the preparation meets?
Luck is when opportunity meets preparation.
Yeah.
Is that the one you're looking for?
Yeah. Luck is when preparation
meets opportunity.
And go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say, it reminds me, have you ever read, Nick, have you read Tim Grover's book, Relentless?
Yes, I have.
I mean, I think this, to me, as I think about it along these lines, is, his book, I always said one of the common denominators between Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade was Tim Grover. And Tim Grover wasn't just a personal trainer who health and fitness matters to, right? Whether it's strength training or conditioning. But more importantly than all that I think is developed during that time, which I think comes through in your title of your book, is the mental focus and discipline that it takes to really be physically fit. It's like something you can't, you just can't shortcut. If you're going to do that, you have to be willing to do hard things. It teaches you facing up and when whether it's deadlifting or doing squats, which are always painful, but then you get this good result from doing that hard thing. I think it helps you in every other part of life, realizing, hey, if I face this hard challenge because I choose to, then when a hard challenge shows up, it's something that is just as hard. It just doesn't feel as hard because I was prepared, which I think comes across in your title, man. And is that kind of, I don't know, has Tim Grover played an influence in kind of your mentality? Because it seems, I haven't read the book yet, which I'm excited to, but it seems like just based on the title, then maybe some of these things have kind of permeated your philosophy.
Absolutely. I'm happy that you brought him up because he's in my field, so I relate to him a lot. Though he's worked with some big names in professional sports, and I'm more in the collegiate side of things. The nature of our jobs are the same, preparing athletes to excel at their sport. But the reason why you brought up Tim is because in his books and what he talks about is it's way less about the actual workouts themselves and way more about the way you attack the workouts and the mental side and the component of putting yourself through the ringer so that test day it's easy, right? There's a saying that says test day is rest day for the well-prepared. And that resonates with me a lot because when you put in the work beforehand, you can walk into any situation, whether it's sales, whether it's, other realms of business, a championship game, a weight loss challenge, whatever it is, fully prepared, knowing that you were able to endure what others weren't. So you're able to reap the results.
It's awesome.
That's awesome, dude. I love that. Test day is rest day for the well-prepared.
Yes, sir.
My son has a race coming up. We just got done racing a few weeks ago, and he's got a race coming up the first week in March. And I was talking to him last night about the preparation. The time that I'm trying to impress upon him is going to be required for him to be able to compete at that level. So, Hayden, I'm interested to hear your perspective on this. From the 18-year-old perspective, the preparation that you've seen, that you've put in to get the results that you've gotten, and the additional preparation that you envision yourself having to do to go to the next level of racing.
Yeah, I look back at my first ever race sometimes, and I think like how much progress I've made just because of the work I've put in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually so cool how you can just put in that work, have a better what's the word?
Outcome
outcome,
result?
Yeah, outcome result.
Uh-huh.
And I'm excited to do this race, and I want to do this full series because I'm going to put more work in, and I'm going to try and get some podiums, get some first place races going, and
That's
I'm
awesome.
just looking forward to racing more.
Yeah, that first race, you didn't know what to expect, and we hadn't done a ton of preparation, but you went out there and gave it your best, and you tipped over a bunch of times. And the biggest thing is that every time you tipped over, you got back up, mm-hmm. and you lined up for the next race, and you had the mindset of, I may not have gotten the result that I wanted, but I'm here, I'm back for more, I'm going to keep progressing. And it's the same thing in any sport, Nick. I mean, these guys, they got to have short memories because they're getting their teeth kicked in over and over and over to get to the level that they want to get to. And that's part of that preparation. That's part of the callousing your mind to all of the challenges that you're going to have to overcome to become elite.
Absolutely. And, what resonates with my athletes a lot is we talk about the iceberg, right? Everyone's heard the iceberg illusion is what the eyes can only see what's at the surface and above, right? Little do you know that most of the mass is actually below and you can't actually see it. Mm-hmm. So I talk about this in the book a little bit. And coming off our national championship year, we really talked about this, about how we felt about the season, is that only those who endured or were very close to those who actually put in the work have an understanding of what went into it. Nobody was there with these athletes at 5 a.m. at 22 degrees here in Boston, getting run into the ground and putting themselves through these grueling conditioning sessions and lifting these weights and then going to class and doing all these things that they have to do, going home right before night and getting an extra stretch in, making sure they're eating the right food. Nobody's with you during all that, but what they do see is the final result. So what's important to know about this whole mentality process and preparation is that it doesn't get the praise that it deserves, because at the end of the day, most people are going to look at that championship game and say, wow, they played really good in this championship game and they won, or vice versa. Wow, they played bad, they lost. They have no respect for everything, the entire journey, the entire process that went into it.
Exactly.
And I think that's a big component to what Hayden was just talking about for his race, because there are going to be ups and downs, right? There's peaks and valleys to everybody's journey. And it's not always respected. It never shows, but it definitely happens. And that's why preparation is key in the process.
I mean, I don't know. I would say that it does get respected by the people that deserve your respect. When it's like, it reminds me of that quote by Muhammad Ali. He says, I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit now. I want to live as a champion forever. And it happened because, I mean, everybody that's doing what you're talking about, showing up to the gym early in the morning, lifting weights, doing hard things, focus on their diet, putting in the hours, it's like naturally the world puts them on a pedestal. Now, maybe they don't praise the effort, but I think the reason why average and ordinary people don't praise that effort is because they actually have to confront their lack of effort in the process of doing that. So rather they praise the result. But we all know that result, and everybody knows that result comes from this extraordinary price that champions pay, whether it's in business, whether it's in motocross, whether it's playing any kind of collegiate sport or any professional sport for that matter, any type of winning that is put up on a pedestal. Yeah, we're putting them up on a pedestal and giving them a trophy, but I do think we know the reason why they're put up on a pedestal. And the greats know, the ones who have won at anything know that the price that was paid in order to win was a tremendous price. And that's really what's happening. I think that's why we make champions. That's why we make heroes out of people. You know, if you look at there's a great book called Story Brand by Donald Miller, I believe it is. And he talks about you can take every blockbuster movie in the history of the world, and if it's gone big, it has this formula where there's a hero, there's a problem that the hero solves, there's a villain. And I think that when we make heroes out of people, we're making heroes out of people, if it was in sport, like what is the problem that these athletes are solving? And I think that's the insecurities or the discomfort that people know they have to face to become great at anything. So we create, you look at mediocre people in the world will say things like, oh, they were born with that gift. And then you look at like Justin Bieber singing on the streets and how bad he sucked, or Ed Sheeran, or you look at Celine Dion, how horrible she was early on. And now it's like you listen to her and you go, oh, so that's the price that was paid through all those years, those uncomfortable situations, the time when nobody was watching, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually they sell out arenas. So,
but don't you think?
I don't know.
I think what I got from that is that most people don't acknowledge that work. They're just there watching, they're recognizing the talent, but they're not acknowledging.
Yeah.
And most people will never tout all of the work that they did. Like the true champions, the true elite will never speak one word of the work that was involved. And I'm sure you've got to work with some great athletes throughout your career, Nick, and you've been able to see this over and over, that the greatest are the greatest for a reason.
Yep.
And they don't have to say nothing.
Absolutely. I've been fortunate to work with, I have guys in the MLB right now, Professional Lacrosse League, NFL. Like, and the one common denominator is what you just said is, it's not so much about, the process of actually going through all the work and then looking for the praise. It's just all internal. It's what's expected. There's no compromise to it. A lot of people, like you said, you brought up mediocre people, those are the people that don't respect what it actually takes because they're not willing to endure that. And because of that, they never get to the level that those who do put in the work get to.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that, Nick, because I just wrote down on my notes expectations. I think that anybody who won, at the beginning they expected to pay that price, right? I'm sure that you see that in these athletes. The difference between the athletes anybody playing sports in college has done a pretty dang good job of separating themselves. Let's face it, right? But when you go from the difference between a collegiate athlete and a professional athlete, there's still that next level. And my guess, talk to us a little bit about the difference of expectations in those people, because they've still, a collegiate athlete has still outperformed those in high school sports, which can still, I think, be great. And obviously making it into college in sports is a big deal. And then going from college to professional sports and making it your career. What would you say is the difference of the expectations and the mindset between somebody who makes it to college and somebody who excels at college and becomes a professional and makes it their career?
Yeah, it's an easy answer for me because I see it all the time. It's that word that everybody uses, but not everybody's so great at, is discipline. These guys that end up going to the professional leagues they make everything having no choice. It's a requirement. There's no choice. There's no illusion of choice that you get to choose when you want to work and when you don't. It's this has to happen. I do it now. Everything else is sacrificed. Somebody who doesn't end up making it, yeah, they'll work hard, like you just said. They'll put in the work. They got to this level. They have work ethic. They have the talent. But as soon as something comes and interferes, they may struggle with, all right, well, I'm going to occupy this time doing this when I should be really working at my skill, and so I can get to that next level. The people that do get to the next level, there is no compromise. That's not even a discussion. It's like they're almost robotic in the way that they approach their training.
Yeah, I think that so it comes down to discipline. So why do you think that some people have discipline and others don't? Because I believe that a lot of people would like to have that discipline, right? I have this saying I've always said, if winning was easy, losers would do it. Like it's just not easy. Winning is hard, right? And I think when you're facing hard things, the ability to continuously do the hard thing over and over and over without losing intensity, in my opinion, is what discipline is, right? And so what would you say causes some people to have discipline and others not to?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really think it's just the ability to turn a need versus a want. Like this needs to happen so it gets done, opposed to I want this to happen. I want to get to this level of success. So that's when compromise comes in and self-doubt comes in and maybe all the work doesn't get put in. I think a lot of it's internal. I do think a portion isn't always developed. Some of it is charismatic. It's almost instilled in some of us, and the way we're raised through parents and the things and the trials and tribulations that we've been through shapes us. And I see that a lot, especially with the population of athletes I work with. A lot of our athletes that do go on into play, they don't come from a lot of money or what have you, or from stable households, and they've been challenged along the way in other areas of life, which have allowed them to gain perspective about what they really want to prioritize. Yeah. And that's really what helps them stay on track in their discipline.
Now, I was just thinking of something as you were talking about that, because I stand here today, the owner of JKR Windows, and having accomplished some incredible things with my life, but I wasn't always disciplined. I didn't always have good habits. And, I had a background that could have been used either way. I could have been one of those people that used it as an excuse and been a victim. So one of the things as a leader that you're always trying to figure out is what creates that switch for people? Like how can you manufacture that for somebody? As a leader, you're always looking for this extra edge for athletes, for our salespeople, for my son. It's like, where does it come from? Like, how do you generate it? Where do you get somebody to switch their mind from being lazy and uninspired to now being inspired, and they want to go out and trade some bad habits for good habits and start building some discipline?
Yeah, I think it's very hard. I think it starts with doing hard stuff and seeing the results. And nothing's ever accomplished in a day. Everything takes time, and it's about embracing the process and embracing the journey. And if you can make small incremental gains, it creates momentum for larger gains. So as soon as you do something hard and you see a little bit of the reward, a little bit of the benefit, you stayed after practice one day, you got in a bunch of extra swings, and then you went 3 for 3 in the baseball game the next day, it clicks in your head. It's like, okay, I'm going to try this for the next game. And then maybe the next game you feel good too. And then that keeps stacking on top of each other. And eventually, hopefully that ingrains kind of a disciplined mentality inside of you to continue to propel forward.
How important do you feel it is to have coaches and mentors around you to continue to remind you those things?
Yeah, very important. Because the thing about discipline is it's easy when it's convenient for you. It's hard when you really want to go a different way, or things aren't in order and there's chaos around you and something's happening to your family or whatever the case may be. That's when you're really tested. So like anything else, like any good team, whether it's business, sports team, whatever it is, you got to surround yourself with those who are on the same mission as you are. Because, iron sharpens iron, you help each other out. And when one person's, at least in the athletic world, on a team, when one person's feeling down, they're sluggish one day, that's when you rely on a teammate to build them right up.
Yeah, the importance of a team and being a part of an environment and a culture that inspires you, that builds belief in you. And it reminds me, my son Hayden has a a great group of kids that he hangs out with. And for him to go and race or to go practice, he's a teenager. It's like, dude, you want to go practice? Like just me and you? He's like, I actually got some shit going on with my friends. But this example of that I've been trying to figure out with my son to inspire him is that he gets around this group of guys that are inspired. They all want to do better. They all want to show each other up. So Hayden, I would love to hear your perspective on this because I've never had this conversation with you, and I've always tried to figure it out because I'm at this stage in my life where I've become just kind of disciplined on my own. And you get fired up when you're around your friends and you want to go do something, you want to prove yourself. So what's your perspective on that?
So I say for like when I go riding with my friends, it's like we like compete with each other. We like try and be faster than each other, obviously. Mm-hmm. But it's like we talk a bunch of smack to each other. We say a bunch of things. Like some friends are better than I have some friends that like to just do wheelies.
Yeah.
They're better than me at wheelies. I don't have the confidence to do a wheelie as much as them. But like I can go and put on laps way more than them on a turn track or hit some better jumps than them. And it's just so fun competing with your friends and like pushing each other, and then you get better just by pushing each other, and you get to see each other improve, and it's so fun.
So now if you were to just go do those things by yourself, do you think you would go out there and put in the same work?
Probably not. I just you have your friends pushing out there and makes it more fun, and they like to ride right behind you, and then they'll push you to go faster. You maybe even do the same for them.
Isn't that cool how that works? It applies with so many things in life. With a group of friends, just some punk-ass kids that are out riding dirt bikes, they're just pushing each other. And then for me, it was a mentor group. When I first started getting my shit together, I couldn't have done it by myself. I had to surround myself with some other success stories and some other people that were doing better things with their life, and there was this structure and there was accountability. And with a coach or a mentor or a group to be a part of that has some built-in accountability. And for most people, I believe most people have integrity.
Yep.
And they want to do great things. They're just not in the environment that's going to inspire them to do that. So
Yet, I would say on that, I think I always taught this concept, the power of association versus the power of disassociation, right? As you start winning, you look at these collegiate athletes, Nick, I'm sure you notice, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the ones that are winning at a high level have done a good job of disassociating people that distract them, right? They can still be friends, we can still love each other, but for right now, I'm focused on something, and I got to go achieve this, which means I have to associate with like-minded people. And I think when a coach or a leader does a good job of getting a group of guys like that together, they start creating a culture. Right, this is why, like in college football, you look at Nick Saban, right, what he's been able to do, and it's just known, like, hey, if I'm going to play for Nick, this is one of the things that I'm going to have to do, is I'm going to have to expect to rise to these standards that he has with inside of that team, right, which is another one of my favorite books, is How Good Do You Want to Be by Nick Saban. Phenomenal book. And he talks about this exact topic in there, and I love it. And, Nick, I'd like to hear your perspective on this, too, because we talked about desire, Jefferson. You talk about you said something to the fact that you just had to create this discipline yourself. I think you've always had the desire to do something with your life, right? But I believe that maybe at some point you lost your belief in whether or not the desire could become a reality from associating yourself with people that were distracting you, right?
Absolutely.
And as soon as, and again, tell me if I'm wrong, but as soon as you start disassociating yourself from people who are going where you don't want to go, it doesn't mean anything bad about them. It's just, hey, that's not where I want to go. I want to go this way. And you start associating yourself. Then what happens, it puts you in an environment of higher expectations. Mm-hmm. And then I think our job as a leader is to lower doubts and fears and increase hope and belief. And so how do we increase hope and belief in people? Well, I think progress is what creates belief. Nick, you alluded to this a second ago, right? Is you start stacking wins and you start believing, hey, maybe I can actually achieve this. And so I think obviously if someone's playing college sports or, you've excelled at things prior to Windows, there's been things you've excelled at, right? But that starts creating this desire. I've always said, I think the one thing we can't teach people is desire. Once somebody shows up with a desire, Now our job as leaders is to increase their belief by lowering doubts and fears, right? By putting them in the right culture, helping them understand that progress leads to higher belief, all these kind of things. So Nick, maybe talk a little bit about that. You're working with a lot of different sporting programs. Jefferson just talked about something similar like that with Hayden. I've watched it happen in Jefferson's life and what he's done with building a business, but I've seen him do it and excel at different things prior to business as well. Talk about how important these things are inside of the culture of a team, how it creates winning athletes, and how it really creates long-term success. Because one of the things that we haven't talked about yet, too, is these winning athletes in college a lot of times have a higher chance of success at anything in their life later on than somebody who was just an average performer, which I think is understated in college sports.
Yeah, you guys bring up so many good points there. I'll start with just my own personal experiences, just my own athletic career. I figured out very early on, the kids I was hanging out with in high school, I had friends that played sports, friends that didn't. And I figured out very early that I had to gravitate towards the people that had the same interest in me in sports, because I knew I wanted to do that because they pushed me to be better at my sport. Where, yeah, I was friends with the other kids, but they didn't want to see me do well playing sports because they didn't care about it. And that just speaks to the point about, that group and having the accountability. That's such a good aspect to have on a team, but also just in a work environment too. We have a staff of 7 that I work with, and we're all just constantly pushing each other in different areas. We actually created the accountability board, and we call each other out for everything. You show up late to work one day, we're writing that on the board. You said you were going to do a program and you decided to stop. You only got 3 days in of lifting when you're supposed to get in 4. We're adding you to the board. And what's really cool is, we start the fiscal year. We've already had a year of doing it, and it's totally changed behaviors. So for me, I was on the board for a lot of what they called freakouts, where I just let my emotions get the best of me. I'd get angry about little stuff. So I was on the board a lot. And for every single reason, there was a tick next to it. Circle back to this year, a year later, I'm on there for 0. So it totally changed my behavior. But to your guys' point is, I can confidently say that would not happen without elite people around me pushing me to get better. Right? The accountability aspect is so huge to hold people to a standard. And when you're not reaching the standard, you need somebody to call you out. Otherwise, you live in la la land and you think that everything is good, when in reality is you have no perception of what the truth actually looks like from somebody else. You have no idea of you fumbling in certain areas of your job or whatever it may be. So, I know we kind of unpacked a lot there, but I think accountability is a huge performance driver for a team and an individual.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I think that as you talk about accountability, what it tells me is when I said progress creates belief, it tells me that as you are being held accountable, you're making progress and you can see it, right? I can feel the energy as you're talking about it, right? And you're talking about now you're not up there, which means you believe you can get better. And by holding ourselves in a group of people that challenge us to get better, and they want more out of us, we can always get better, right? There's never a limit to us progressing in life until the day we're done with life. I think most people stop growing at some point in their life, and then they wonder why their life is just average. Well, you stopped growing, right? And so it's cool to hear your perspective on accountability, because I think accountability does lead to progress. And where there is accountability and there is progress, belief levels go through the roof, and people believe that they can accomplish anything, such as winning national championships in college, or winning and building a $200 million business, right? And I think, or winning a series of motocross, whatever it may be that we want to accomplish, you start progressing towards something, your belief level goes up, and it starts increasing those expectations amongst us as well, which is awesome.
And your confidence, it creates momentum. So if I think about my story, when I first started in sales, I'd never done sales. I'd had a little bit of experience, and it was not within my comfort zone at all. But I started getting those little wins, and it starts to create a little bit more belief that this is possible for me. These other people aren't anything special. They just got a little bit more experience than me. And then I start getting some momentum. And then I get these bigger and bigger wins, things that once didn't seem possible that are now becoming possible. And, you're dealing with these high-level freaking athletes that already have
excelled in high school and have moved on to college, and a lot of them will move on to Olympic and professional careers. But, a lot of people that listen to the Just Real Quick podcast are in a similar place as where I was 6 years ago. I was just in a tough place financially. I was trying to figure out how to be a better father and a husband and provide for my family. And just getting those little wins, start getting up a little bit earlier, start reading 1 or 2 pages a day, start writing my goals down, start making a little bit more money and seeing that the fruits of my labor and that extra activity is actually going to pay off. And then it starts building more confidence that more is possible and I can start making bigger plans and bigger goals. And that it's a powerful thing to tap into. So I think that the message today is kind of turned into not as much about the health pillar and more about just success in general comes down to the preparation, the delayed gratification.
I would say, dude, I think it is part of health. It's our mental health. In the world we live in today, so many people are talking about mental health and self-care and all this BS, okay? You know what self-care is? Doing hard crap, facing it, holding yourself accountable, getting better, but it does lead to success mentally, right? And, same thing. It doesn't matter what it is in our life. When we want to get better, when we're progressing, whether it's in our health, our fitness, making more money, I think that's a part of health. You feel better when you're winning?
Absolutely.
I do. I'll bet our hormones are better when we're winning. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I do think that it comes back to health.
Yeah,
I really
you're right.
do. I think all of this stuff is crucial. Did you know the average president of the United States lives longer? They have a longer life expectancy than others in the United States. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Think about all the pressure, all the stress, all the stuff they know, and yet they live longer. And we could argue why we maybe have better health care. I don't know, because a lot of wealthy people in this country.
They still die early.
Yes. And so I believe that it comes back to expectations and that high level of performance mentality. There's a reason why they became the president, right? And so I think all of this, I really do believe all of this comes back to our health, as long as we approach it in the correct way, right? As long as it's not a defeating purpose, but it's a positive thing, like, hey, I want to progress in life. I want to get better, wherever that is, wherever you're starting now, whether you're just starting, like you were saying, 6 years ago, or you're in college and you're trying to get to the pros, or Nick, you're just coming out with a book, man, you want it to become a bestseller. These are all things we can do to progress and make it better in life. And I think it does make us healthier as individuals to achieve.
Absolutely. All right, Nick, as we're wrapping up here, I'd love to hear from you a final message for the listeners. What do you got for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the preparation and what you're willing to endure and put yourself through creates what's called the expected result. It's like the old saying, like, are you surprised you didn't work out? You didn't train all off season? Are you surprised that you failed in season? Are you surprised you didn't perform well? Or, you did everything you could beforehand. You did all your due diligence on the agency. You made sure you looked at professional. You came prepared and you got the job. Right? Are you surprised? No, because you did everything beforehand to make sure that was the expected result. You earned that. So my final message is, with preparation, it's not as simple as people make it out to be. It doesn't just happen. We do it in some capacity for everything we do in our lives, whether you're going to the grocery store, whether you're working out, whether it's in your business or for a sale. Whatever you do requires a certain degree of preparation. And how you approach that is so indicative of that result you get to. If you go through the right tactics and you actually work at fine-tuning your preparation processes, just like everybody has a goal of, starting a multi-million-dollar agency. Everybody wants to win a national championship. You're no different. Everybody has that same goal. What are you willing to do from a system standpoint to make that a reality, to separate yourself from everybody else? And that just has everything to do with your ability to prepare.
I love that, man.
That's awesome. I'm just wondering who told everybody to wear a hoodie today.
We're all wearing hoodies. We planned it.
No, that's awesome.
All right, Nick, I appreciate you coming on, brother. You got a great message. I'm excited to read the book. I hope you can send me a signed copy as soon as you got some ready. Where can we find you? Where can everybody from the Just Real Quick podcast find you?
Yeah, so I got a website, cidado.com, where I post a lot about the book and what I'm doing as an author. But then social media is kind of where I portray everything I do from a strength and conditioning standpoint, as well as some of the book stuff and mindset stuff. That's just at Cidado on Instagram.
Right on, brother. So, message of the day, preparation. How much are you willing to do to get better? Whether it's you're trying to get a job or you're trying to become a better salesperson, father, husband, leader, communicator, you're trying to earn that next promotion within your business, it all comes down to the preparation. There's very few, we're talking like multiple decimal points of the people that can do it naturally without the preparation. I wouldn't count on it. You have got to come to terms with the work that's involved to help get you to the next level in every area of your life. For the 4 pillars of JKR Windows, for every other thing that you have goals to do well in your life, how much preparation are you willing to put in? Thank you guys for being here with me today on another podcast. Just real quick, love doing this. You guys keep coming back for more every week. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a review and keep coming back every week for more. We're just going to keep chucking these things out. See you guys next time.